What's up, guys? This is Tucker Durkin here, coming to you from Baltimore. Um, Member of the Florida Launch. I'm here to answer some of your questions that you submitted on Instagram for Lacrosse Hub. A lot of great questions here. Thanks for submitting them in. I'm going to do my best to try to get through most of them. Alrighty, first question. What is your career outside of lacrosse? So I am an analyst for an energy company in Baltimore. Although I have that job, I also like to stay involved in lacrosse from a coaching and teaching standpoint. So you might see me at a clinic or a camp. Alrighty. Number 2, do you string your own sticks? Absolutely not. In fact, if you gave me a piece of mesh and a head, I would have no idea what to do with it. And you can ask Mike Poppleton, who strung all my heads for 4 years at Hopkins, and then recently after college boycotted me. So I kind of just try to get head strung from whoever has the time on the Florida Launch. Alrighty. Next question. Being a defenseman, do you tend to go through a lot of sticks? Surprisingly, not too many. Nothing crazy. I use the STX hammer head and the hammer shaft, and they're pretty durable to the wear and tear that I put on it throughout the season. With that being said, obviously, a couple times throughout a season, I'm going to be switching them up if they get bent or perhaps broken or warped or something. So maybe I'd say 2 to 3 a season. Alrighty. How hard or often do you work out? Great question. Short answer is I like to work out every single day. The intensity or the difficulty of the workout depends on a couple different factors. Number 1, how's my body feeling? Do I have a game that week? Do I need to rest my body a little bit more? But above all else, I pretty much consult Jay Dyer, who is the trainer for Johns Hopkins, was my trainer at Hopkins, was my trainer for Team USA, and I also visit Jay probably 2 to 3 times a week. So he's kind of my resident trainer and consultant on nutrition, fitness, and pretty much anything I have to ask him about. Alrighty. What makes a great defenseman, in my opinion? Another really good question. I think what makes a great defenseman is a couple things. If I had to narrow it down to 2 main aspects, it would be versatility and adaptability. So, as a defenseman, and this probably goes for any position in lacrosse, you can't be a one-trick pony. And by that I mean you can't just be really good on the ball, or really good off the ball, or really good stick checks, really good stick work, really good on ground balls. You've got to be able to do everything. I think if you look at some of the top players in the MLL, the top players in college, they're guys that can play on the ball. They're guys that can play off the ball. They're guys that can work well within a system. So obviously everyone's going to have strengths and weaknesses, but I think it's the guys that can really adapt to a system, that can adapt to a game, that they can adjust their style of play based on the guy they're covering. Are you covering a short, quick guy? Are you covering a strong guy? The next game, you've got to be able to adapt your style of play to kind of the game and your opponent. Second here, the next question. Drills or techniques that you would recommend? Good question. So in terms of lacrosse training and drills and techniques, I'm not really a big fan of necessarily reinventing the wheel on this one. I would definitely, as a young defenseman, actually pretty much at any level, I think you need to invest in a speed ladder. You need to dedicate a significant amount of time to hitting the wall, to finding a strength and conditioning coach that you trust that can develop a program for you that you will follow. I think agility is key. I think strength is key. And then obviously going out and playing. So the more you play, the more comfortable you're going to be out there on the field. But at the same time, I think I'll get into it at a later question. I think it's really important to play other sports and kind of not get burnt out just by lacrosse. Okay. Why lacrosse over every other sport? Good question. So I'm parlaying this into the next question, which is what other sports, if any, did you play in high school or college? So kind of combining those two questions, I played pretty much everything growing up. Anything that was competitive that my school offered and it wasn't conflicting with another sport, I was pretty much going to play. I played football, basketball, lacrosse. I played golf in high school. But obviously, I continued and I saw the biggest opportunity in lacrosse. And for me, it was the most fun. But when I really look at it and you really kind of dissect the game of lacrosse, I think the biggest thing is it's the best part of every other sport. You have the strength component. You have the speed component. You have the IQ component. You've got the team concept. You also have, an individual component, your certain matchups, your own individual goals. So I think there's a little bit of every other sport, particularly the best aspects of a lot of other sports, all combined into the game of lacrosse. And I think that's why it's my favorite sport. Okay. Next question. Who is your lacrosse role model? Okay, so this is probably a tie. Two guys. Tony Resch, one of my high school coaches, phenomenal coach, even better person. Guy that I played for in high school, always looked up to. He was a mentor to me off the field, a guy that really kept me humble, kept me hungry. And I think that's kind of where my biggest development was from my sophomore year of high school to my senior year of high school. I think that's kind of where I grew the most as a player and as a person. I think I'm really thankful to have Tony Resch there for that time, as I think he was instrumental in my growth during that period. And the second guy is Coach Dave Petramala. You guys all know him as Coach Petro. You don't get any better than that in terms of coaching, competitiveness. His ability to get the most out of every player is better than any coach I've ever seen. If you're willing to work hard, if you're willing to put in the extra time, you can be a great player at Johns Hopkins. And I think, he, like I said, has an uncanny ability to light a fire in his players and really get the most out of them. And I think he was able to do that for me. Alrighty. Next question. I apologize. I'm looking off my phone here. Keeps going blank on me. Do you have any game day rituals? I'm going to parlay questions again here. Game day ritual question with how do you prepare mentally and physically for the game? So kind of a two-part question here. Game day rituals, nothing crazy. I really try to harness my energy and my excitement before the game. There'll be times like a couple hours before the game, I'll be in a hotel and I'm ready to play the game, right? Get up from a nap or after I eat lunch or something, I'm ready to strap it up in my hotel room and go to work right there. So I really have to kind of harness my energy, and I think part of my growth as a player throughout high school and college, now the professional level, is I've kind of been able to at times reel it in if I have to, and particularly before a game without I don't think it necessarily benefits me to get too overly excited and animated before a game. I kind of let it build up to that first whistle. And going into a game, I've always prided myself on my ability to study my opponent, to study the team I'm playing. So I really like to be extremely prepared. I like to know the person I'm guarding, as well as he knows himself. I like to know his tendencies, his strengths, his weaknesses. Probably more important, I pride myself on being able to understand the offensive concepts of the team that we're playing. I think it's really, really important as a defenseman, goaltender, offensive guy, to really study your opponent and kind of be aware what you're going up against. Best advice you've ever received? Parlaying again, two questions into one. Best advice you've received and most influential person in your life. So the best advice I've received has come from the most influential person in my life, and that is my father. My dad told me at a pretty young age. I had older brothers, always watched sports, really into sports. He told me at a young age that the key to success in sports and a lot of different facets of life was all mental. He used to say it's between your ears. I remember him saying that when I was in like second or third grade, and I didn't really understand it. He said, it's all between your ears. You can be as good as you want. It's all between your ears. And as I got older, I kind of was able to understand that quote and what he meant by that. And I just think that basically comes down to, you can decide how hard you want to work. You can decide how much you want to put into pretty much any endeavor, any sport, anything that you want to be successful. You decide how much work you want to put into it. And if you've got the mental aspect down, you've got that drive to compete, that drive to work when no one's watching, after practice, before practice, you can really be as good as you want to be. And I think that's the best advice I've ever received. But that looks like that's all the questions. Again, thank you very much. Lacrosse Hub fans, you guys are great. Some great questions. I think unless I missed them, I apologize if I missed any questions, but I think that's all of them. And thank you very much.